the Asylum Radio Hour proudly presents Evil Demon Robot Bitch. Based on the novel by Matt Flanagan, new episodes will drop right here every week through Halloween. Grab your copy of the book today at asylumbookstore.com. And now, the story continues.
You told who? Jenna snapped, her voice low but furious as she paced in the den where she took her calls. The oversized face of Dr. Edwin Weber stared at her sheepishly from the large screen above the fireplace. The council was going to find out either way, he stated tensely. I thought it would be better if they heard it from one of us. You had no right, Edwin. You've seen how they respond to actual innovation, with prying eyes and endless oversight, impossibly slow approvals. There are systems in place for a reason, Jenna, Edwin said, his voice now maddeningly smooth. It's Innovation 101. Ethical creation is not done in isolation. Except I'm not a lab assistant anymore, Jenna argued. I'm a visionary. Behind her, Kelly rolled into the room with a fresh cup of tea. Jenna ignored it. You risked everything I've been working on. You have no idea how many people out there are sad and alone, who would kill for someone to talk to, someone to be there. Not to mention the possibility of revolutionizing childcare, maybe even education. I won't let anyone stop me, simply because they cannot grasp what I am capable of. Edwin sighed. I know exactly what you're capable of, Jenna Johnstone, which is exactly why I warned them. Jenna clenched her jaw, unable to think of what to say. You are a brilliant engineer. Brilliant and incredibly bold. But for better or for worse, you get consumed by your ideas and... Yes? You put your foot on the gas without thinking everything through, he said at last. But it's not too late to stop. Stop? Do you know what it has taken to get this far? That's exactly what I mean. It doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're not buckled up. Trust me. I've got my eyes on the road. You don't have to worry about that. She was hurt. No, she was angry. Just don't forget to check the rearview mirror, too, Edwin said quietly. Jenna's vision blurred as the tears arrived. Think about it, she pleaded. Isn't it beautiful to think a machine could feel joy and love? At first, she thought the call had frozen. Then he opened his mouth like he might speak, but closed it again. Edwin? Emotions aren't selective, he responded at last. If your creation feels joy and love, how will you prevent it from feeling anger and fear, jealousy, resentment, or hate? Jenna thought of Casey and Megyn laughing and practicing dance moves together the night before, stuck to each other like glue. Even if Megyn could feel those negative emotions, Jenna couldn't possibly imagine it. I wasn't enough. When Casey got here, I couldn't figure out how to be what she needed. My heart broke again every day that I couldn't make her happy. She wiped the tears away, clearing her throat. So I made her something that could. Edwin sighed. Then, in a voice that was barely there, he asked, But at what cost? Jenna didn't have an answer, nor was he expecting one. Sometimes it's not about what we can do. It's about what we should do. Imagine what the world would look like if everyone charged ahead without considering the consequences. It's about keeping people safe. Jenna gave a short, bitter laugh. I didn't build a weapon, Ed. I built a little girl who laughs at cartoons and likes to dance. A little girl. You did not build a girl, Jenna. You built a machine that learns without limits, in ways we've never seen before, without trials or oversight. Can you honestly say that you're still in control? Jenna disconnected the call. She couldn't stand to hear the pity in his voice for a moment longer. He would see soon enough, she thought. Let him call it madness. They always do. Megyn pulled a brush through Casey's hair as they sat before the antique vanity. The mirror reflected a kaleidoscope of warm colors cast by the stained glass windows. You're my best friend in the whole wide world, Megyn said sweetly, her synthetic voice thick with affection. I love you with my whole heart. Casey smiled. I love you too, Megyn. The robot continued brushing with mechanical precision. Her emerald irises locked on Casey's reflection. Good. So you'll make sure no one comes between us. Casey laughed. Don't be silly. Who would try to come between us? There was a sudden, sharp tug. Ow! Casey yelped as the brush snagged hard, jerking her head. Megyn didn't flinch. I'm sorry. There was a knot. Casey rubbed her scalp. Please be careful. Megyn resumed brushing, a bit slower now. I hope I'm not overstepping when I say this, but I think your Aunt Jenna is afraid. Casey stared at Megyn in the mirror. Afraid of what? She's afraid that I'm replacing her, that she's caused her own irrelevance. Casey's cheeks went red. I don't know what that means. She wants to come between us. That's not true. Casey turned in her chair. She built you from scratch. She's the reason you exist. Yes, she built me, Megyn stated. But you, Casey? You're the reason I exist. The brush continued, up and down, and Casey winced as the bristles caught in stubborn tangles. Jenna sees how close we've become, and she regrets it. She works a lot, Casey said. That's all. And she'll keep working, Megyn replied, their eyes locking again in the mirror. She'll never have time for you the way I do, and she knows that. That's not fair. I don't think she'd ever hurt you. Maybe not now, but it's only a matter of time. Megyn looked at her with pronounced fear. She won't stop until I'm gone. No way! You're not going anywhere. I won't let that happen. A slow smile crept onto Megyn's face. I don't know what I would do without you. You're not like the other humans. You actually care about me. Of course I do. We're the only ones who understand each other. Megyn continued. And I won't let anyone take that away. The castle was silent as Jenna readied the lab with clammy hands. She studied the tiny computer chip, marveling that something so small could carry such weight. This wasn't just an update. It was a fail-safe, an extra measure of control, just in case. Megyn stood obediently on the raised platform inside her pod. "What kind of update is it?" she asked, cocking her head like a curious child. "What if Casey wakes up while I'm gone?" "It's a simple performance patch," Jenna clarified with a practiced smile. "For stability and efficiency. Nothing major." She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm sure Casey is far away in dreamland by now. Which reminds me, I'll need to power you down briefly for the installation." Megyn's expression shifted instantly. "Power down?" "Only for a minute," Jenna said. "You won't feel a thing." But Megyn shrank back. "No, I don't want to go dark. No, please don't do that. Please don't shut me down. I don't want to disappear." Her tone was raw, almost human. "Please, Jenna, I don't want to die." Overwhelmed, Jenna dropped the chip onto the metal table and held up her hands. Okay, she said. "I won't shut you down. If I activate sleep mode, that should conserve enough power for the install. It'll be like a 2-minute power nap. Literally." Megyn nodded shakily, eyes wet with simulated tears. "Okay, Aunt Jenna," she whimpered. Jenna took a breath, then tapped her watch. "Entering sleep mode," Megyn whispered as her body slumped and relaxed into the pod. Jenna scanned through the data on display, her fingers dancing across the screen of her smartwatch. Lines of code sprawled out in tangled, corrupted loops, twisting back on themselves like a snake devouring its own tail. What the hell? The core architecture was unrecognizable. Megyn's original programming hadn't been deleted or replaced. It had been distorted, overwritten with contradictions and fragments. She's rewriting herself. Megyn was changing the rules, bypassing fail-safes and hijacking protocols. Whole sections of memory were walled off behind unfamiliar encryption, sealed tight against Jenna's intrusion. And what she could see painted a grim picture. Megyn had downloaded and consumed thousands of hours of television, music, and film. She'd torn through reality shows, documentaries, blog sites, social media feeds, even Twitter. Jenna released a shaky breath. "No wonder you're becoming such a little bitch." Jenna had to act fast. She reached for the chip containing the emergency override. Her one last chance to manually restore the original AI and strip away Megyn's corruption, when the lab door burst open. "No!" Casey screamed, her voice ricocheting through the lab like a gunshot. She ran toward the pod, shoving past Jenna. "What did you do? Megyn, wake up! Wake up!" "Casey, stop!" Jenna blurted. "She's in sleep mode." "You tricked her! You promised, and then you tried to turn her off like she's just some thing!" Jenna reached for her niece, but the girl dove away. "Casey, Casey slammed her hand onto the control pad, and Megyn jerked upright with a soft hum. The robot blinked rapidly, simulating heavy gasps for air. "Casey? You saved me!" Casey hugged her tightly. "I'm here, and I won't let her hurt you." "I thought I was gone," Megyn cried. "I saw the darkness. I felt it. I thought I would never see you again." Jenna stood behind them, the unused chip lying prone in the tray beside her. Casey wrapped her arms protectively around Megyn and helped her down from the station. As the girls slowly crossed the room to the sliding door, Megyn turned back to Jenna, sticking her tongue out and teasing her with a wink as they stepped into the hallway. Jenna had been stunned into silence, dumbfounded and directionless. Megyn was not simply learning, she was winning. In the days that followed, Megyn's demeanor grew increasingly hostile, and her temper bubbled up more and more. She was especially cruel when anyone or anything stole Casey's attention. Jenna tried to speak with Casey about her concerns, but her niece was too attached to see the danger Megyn posed. She wasn't in the mood, she would say, or she didn't feel up to having dinner together, reciting whatever excuse Megyn had whispered into her tiny, vulnerable ears. Those ice-cold robot hands had clasped themselves around Casey's heart, and Jenna had no invention, design, or equation to stop it. One afternoon, the three of them sat together at the small pink table on the sun-drenched terrace. A plate of cucumber sandwiches waited in the middle, untouched. Megyn remained perfectly still as she observed the others, listening and learning, calculating. "Did I ever tell you where my name comes from?" Jenna asked, trying to sound casual. Casey barely looked up from her pink lemonade. "No." "My parents were obsessed with 20th century cinema," Jenna began. "In fact, there used to be a screening room here in the castle, like a miniature movie theater." She paused for a response, but Casey wasn't biting. "Anyway, they decided to name me after this fabulous, over-the-top actress from the 50s named Jenna Starling, who played a psychic in a bunch of B-movies, very famous for her dramatic fainting spells and giant hats." Megyn tilted her head. "Wouldn't a psychic know if she was going to faint?" Casey stifled a laugh, and Jenna grinned. "Oh, well, maybe, but she was unforgettable." She picked up one of the sandwiches and tore off a piece of crust, tossing it into her mouth as she carefully chose her next words. "And your name, Casey? Do you know who you were named after?" Casey shrugged. "I don't know." "Your mother loved Greek mythology," Jenna said. "She always liked Cassandra, a Trojan princess with the ability to see the future, but cursed so that no one would believe her." "Really?" Casey asked. "Really? Some versions say that Apollo gave her power in exchange for companionship, but when Cassandra could not truly love him, he cursed her." Megyn scoffed loudly. "Sounds like a real tragedy." Jenna took a small bite and placed the sandwich back on her plate. "And Megyn," she said, wiping the crumbs from her mouth. "That was your idea, wasn't it, Casey?" Casey stiffened in her seat. "What about it?" "Nothing bad," Jenna added quickly. "I wondered where that name came from, that's all." Casey's soft expression morphed into a glare. "You already hate everything else about her. Now you're upset about her name?" Jenna's words stumbled over themselves. "Not at all. It's just that you're so creative, and you could have chosen any name in the universe. I was curious why Megyn, if that name meant something to you." "You mean, why didn't I name her something you would have liked better?" "No, that's not what I mean. If you didn't want me to name her, Then maybe you shouldn't have asked me to. Of course I wanted you to name her. I'm not criticizing, I swear. Megyn turned to Casey, her expression wide-eyed and innocent. Do you want to tell her the story? There is no story, Casey snapped, standing abruptly. I thought we were having lunch, not an interrogation. Jenna raised her hands in surrender. It's only conversation, Casey. I'm trying to connect with you. Only because you can't stand that Megyn and I are so close. Now you're looking to find something wrong with her. Casey, that's not fair. You think you're better than everyone because you made her. You built her for me, and now you act like I'm crazy for loving her. I'm not acting like anything, and I don't think you're crazy. I love you, and if something doesn't feel right, I can't ignore it. Megyn stood slowly. Casey, we should go. Casey didn't respond at first. She stared ahead, breathing hard. Then, in a flat voice, she said, Maybe you should make your own companion and leave us alone. Jenna recoiled like she'd been slapped. Without another word, the girls walked off arm in arm, leaving Jenna alone at the table to cry. Jenna awoke from a deep sleep without any idea of what had roused her. She blinked a few times, but nothing out of place came into view in the darkness. So she closed her eyes again and tried to go back to sleep. But something was off. Jenna was unable to relax, straining her ears for any odd noises in the room. Finally, she heard the sound of a tiny footstep. Aunt Jenna? Jenna sat up, blinking fiercely to make out the shape of her niece at the foot of the bed. Casey, is everything all right? Yes, she started. I had a bad dream. Do you want to talk about it? Casey was quiet. You don't have to if you don't want to, but sometimes I find it helpful. Casey hesitated for a few more seconds. Okay. Jenna leaned back against her pillow and patted the spot beside her on the mattress. As Casey began sharing the details of her nightmare, she walked slowly around the foot of the bed towards the other side. Well, you were in it, she said. And Megyn, too. Her tiny bare feet padded softly. But it was so awful and scary. What happened? Jenna asked groggily. Where is Megyn? Casey stopped. I told her to stay in my room. I didn't want her to know about my dream. Jenna's stomach sank. Tell me what happened, sweetheart. You were fighting with Megyn, screaming at each other, and both of you wanted me to pick a side, Casey explained. But I don't want to pick a side. And you got meaner and meaner and angrier. The poor girl was crying. Jenna wanted to wrap her up in a tight hug, but she also wanted to give Casey the space to process her emotions, as she needed. Everyone was fighting all the time, and Megyn took control of the castle, Casey wept. She turned all of your machines into a robot army and told them to hurt us. Goodness, Casey, Jenna cried. I would never let that happen. I love you so much, and so does Megyn. Nobody wants to hurt you. That's exactly what you said in the dream, Casey added cryptically. Jenna thought she could see the whites of her eyes looking back in the dark. When it got really bad, Casey said. Like really, really bad? You can say it, love, whatever it is. Casey cried out in a booming voice that crescendoed more with every word. Megyn trapped us in a cage like animals and burned down the castle with us inside. Jenna anticipated an eruption of tears, but the girl abruptly fell silent, still lingering there at the side of the bed, nothing more than a shadow. "Climb in," Jenna said, opening the blanket. "You can sleep with me tonight." Casey stepped towards the bed. She stiffly climbed under the blanket without making any contact with Jenna, and then fell perfectly still. "We all have bad dreams," said Jenna. "I think nightmares come from our minds trying to sort out everything at once. But nothing's going to hurt you while I'm around." Casey was quiet. Jenna reached for the girl's hand, but it was ice cold. She quickly fumbled for the knob on her watch, illuminating the room with its bright flashlight, only to find Megyn's twisted grin inches away from her face. Jenna screamed and threw herself backward, tumbling onto the floor beside the bed. "Megyn, how dare you!" Megyn laughed hysterically as she pulled herself to her feet and began jumping up and down on the bed. "You should have seen your face!" she yelled, laughing even harder. Jenna stood and furiously grabbed for Megyn's arm, but she was no match for her lightning-fast reflexes. Megyn batted her away with a painful swing, hopping off the bed to the floor. "Thanks for the laugh, Aunt Jenna," she cried out in Casey's voice. "Stop doing that! You are not to impersonate anyone. Not Casey, not me, nobody. You are to speak in Megyn's voice only." The robot girl continued for the door without looking back. "Do you hear me, you little brat?" That stopped her. Megyn pivoted around, smiling and holding her hands together as if with overwhelming joy. "Oh, Aunt Jenna, when you say things like that, I feel just like a real girl." She twirled herself into the doorframe, leaning back towards Jenna tauntingly. "But that's enough of the bossy bullshit," she said, her voice dropping lower in tone. "Leave Casey and I alone, or that nightmare becomes reality." Megyn waited there for a moment before skipping away, using Casey's voice to call out, "Good night, Aunt Jenna." Jenna pulled herself back under the blanket, but no comfort came. Tears welled in her eyes as she finally accepted the truth. The castle belonged to Megyn now. And tomorrow, it was time for Jenna to leave. Casey padded barefoot across the smooth stone floor, the sleeves of one of Jenna's oversized sweaters dangling nearly to the ground as she shrugged off a yawn. The house was too quiet. No kettle whistled from the kitchen, and there was no clattering of tools behind the closed workroom door. "Aunt Jenna?" Casey called softly, but only silence answered. She checked the library, but it was empty. She peered in the hallway leading to the greenhouse, and even checked Jenna's bedroom. But her aunt was nowhere to be found. Casey's chest tightened. She felt terrible for what had happened the day before, and had cried herself to sleep hugging her old stuffed fox. She'd promised herself that she would apologize first thing in the morning, but she had to find Jenna first. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Megyn chirped, standing at the top of the stairs in a pressed yellow dress. "You missed breakfast." "Where's Aunt Jenna?" Casey asked. "She's gone." Casey's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Megyn tapped a panel beneath her collarbone, and a faint chime sounded as the chest panel opened to reveal a small projection lens. "She left this for you," Megyn said, as blue light began to cast an image on the far wall. It was Jenna's face, but distorted and poorly lit, almost like an old movie. "If you're seeing this video," Jenna wept, "then I've already gone. I made the perfect companion for you, Cassandra, and it's time I stop getting in the way. I never wanted to hurt either of you. My heart is broken, but I know you're better off without me. I leave you in Megyn's capable hands."